My name is Stefan. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. I'm a filmmaker. I have a background in visual culture studies and media theory. So the Migrating Image is a film about images and about perception. It's a film that questions all the images that were being created while the so-called refugee crisis was at its peak, and the film is analyzing and speculating in where these images come from. So it's asking the questions like, who made this footage? Why did they make it? And for whom is this footage intended for? And aside from that, it's also a very technical look into camera technique and image making. Like the film consists of satellite footage, GoPro imagery, and all these kind of military means that have created the visual perception of the refugees. So the film tries to question whether or not the mediums that were being used for this visualization also had an impact on the message that was being delivered. So the idea for the film came in bits. Like in the beginning, I wanted to make a film about images and about perception. So I started gathering a lot of material, basically scoured the internet for material on refugees and how they were being depicted in different medias, and different also looking away from big media, like trying to look into images that I had not found before. So for instance, there's footage from the military marine and the Coast Guard and their YouTube channel, and there's footage from within the EU, like what kind of footage was being created within the EU and with Frontex, kind of like depicting people working to protect the borders. I think the hardest part was to keep looking for material in places that I would not have dreamt of where to look for. So to keep going and keep pushing myself to where I could find material that I had not seen before, and to question my own ways of using the internet, and maybe also try to relearn how to use the internet, and that the trusting the rabbit holes that I would end up in, and I think that was the hardest part, was to find out where to look for this material. So I wanted to find material that I had not yet seen before. Also to underline a point in the film, that is that we have all received a sort of individual perception of the refugee crisis based on our age, our country, our language, our cookies. The inspiration for the film came, I was reading actually a book called Towards a Philosophy on Photography by a Czech philosopher called Milan Flusser. And the book is from 1984, and it's basically questioning the authority of the photograph and how the photograph replaced the written text. And so when I read this book, I was also looking for material, and the book and the footage that I found kind of the idea to merge this kind of theory with this very newly made footage, and kind of like going the way he also approaches the book is very analytical. So I wanted to use that same analytical method in the film, and that was the starting point for the idea. The viewer had to make up their own opinions, basically, and that was very important for me, also because I don't feel like I was in the position to take a stance on this kind of footage. So it became the tightrope for the film to stay on this objective path, and but some people actually also say to me that they can sense my opinion in the film, and that's interesting, because I think also there's a few maybe cues to where my stance is. But first and foremost, I wanted the film to be about images and not about politics, and how do these images also shape reality. I think it's important that we stop and say and claim the right to take this footage out of its context and sort of analytically talk about it, and maybe to try and create a language around how do we consume media. I'm writing on a similar project at the moment, which is also about images and refugees, but more from a stance of algorithms and internet algorithms, and kind of like questioning, does the algorithm have empathy? That is one project I'm writing on at the moment, and also I'm trying to start a new project, which is a completely different category, more personal project, but it's very much in the beginning phase. I think with this film, I'm hoping that it can maybe have an afterlife in a more educational setting, maybe university or people studying media theory. I hope it can be a starting point for a discussion. That's my hope for this film. Aside for that, I'm not quite sure yet. I'm applying for some funding to keep going, and we'll see how it goes.